You want to see a sharp knife? Today we're at the end of our Nakiris Around the World series where we started with Thailand, then we moved to Vietnam, then we went to China, and now we're finally circling back to Japan. And today we're going to be taking a look at the Shimabara Nakiri. Alright, and before we get started, I want to check with you guys. I installed one of my larger lights over here which has a fan on it and has a constant hum, and I wanted to make sure that it's not distorting my audio and making my audio sound like crap. So if it is, definitely let me know in the comments below and I'll switch it back to the old light. Now if you have not seen my What is a Nakiri video, you can find it right here and it covers a lot of the Nakiri basics. Alright, just a quick disclaimer, I pay for this knife 100% with my own money. I don't have any source of affiliations with neither Kaiso Knives nor Shimabara, so that way you guys know I don't have a dog in the race. And as always, this is a first impression video, and we'll come back here in 6 months to see how this baby holds up. If you guys have not heard of Shimabara before, that's actually not surprising. Their full name is Shimabara Hamono, and they are a small forge based out of Nagasaki, and up until now they have sold their knives only in their small village. And as far as I know, their knives are being sold exclusively through Kaiso Knives. So if you guys are interested in one of these, I'll link everything down below so you guys can check it out. Now let's go ahead and run through the specs of this knife really quickly. The overall length of this knife is about 315 millimeters long with 165 millimeters cutting edge. When you look at the blade height of this knife sits at about 46 millimeters tall, which in my personal preference is a little bit on the short side for a Nakiri. I personally like a Nakiri that is at least 51 millimeters tall, but I digress. Now the next thing we want to take a look at is the grind of the knife. The spine thickness right at the edge is about 2.75 millimeters thick. Now hold on a second. I know you're thinking, wow, that sounds really, really thick. But give me a second. This thing distal tapers all the way to the tip to about 0.79 millimeters right here at the tip. And the grind of this knife, it's so gradual and thin that I am not worried at all about this knife wedging through any of my vegetables. Behind the edge thickness is only 0.4 millimeters thick. So you can only imagine how nice and gradual this taper is on or the grind is on this knife. I'll actually get a different angle so you guys can take a closer look at this and just kind of marvel at a choil shot and also at how thin it is here at the tip. Just how nicely thin the grind is at this tip. Alright, the next thing we want to take a look at is the steel that this knife is made out of. The steel that this knife is made out of is a Shirogami No. 2 steel, or also known as white No. 2 or white paper steel. It is an extremely pure high carbon steel made by Hitachi Metals. I'm not going to go through a lot of the specs and bore you with all that stuff, so if you guys are interested, just go ahead and do a quick Google and they can tell you a lot about this steel. Next, let's go ahead and move to the fit and finish of the knife to see how well this knife is made. The knife is very nice and straight. Nice and flat. A very, very nice distal taper. Very nice grind. It comes in this 𝐒𝐿 finish. And the 𝐒𝐿 finish is very nice and even on both sides. And the transition all the way to the edge of this knife, which the edge of this knife, I don't know if you guys can tell right now. You guys see that? It's almost a mirror polish on the edge, and the transition all the way down is really, really gradual and really, really nice. The only thing I see is there are some slight scratch marks, which is actually my own fault because I've actually been sitting on this knife for several months from Kaiso, and I haven't had a chance to use it yet because I wanted to do the whole Nakiri series, and I keep pulling this thing in and out of the sleeve. And I think that probably caused some of this, these markings, which is rubbing off, which is good. But I keep pulling it out of the sleeve to keep taking a look at this knife because I just like the knife so much I couldn't wait to use it. And anyway, so the finish of this knife is really, really nice, and it leads down to this handle right here. This handle is what I like a lot about this knife. This is a spalted tamarind handle, and it is custom fitted on this knife by Taylor himself from Kaiso Knives. And all these knives are purchased by Taylor from Shimabara as blanks. and he put all of the handles on himself. And I gotta tell you, the fit and finish on his handles are super nice. He hand fit all of these handles on there. Glue line gluing up is immaculate. It is really, really well done. And the finish on the handle is very smooth, very even, and very comfortable in the hands. So if you guys are wanting to put custom handles on your knives, Taylor is one of the guys that you guys should check out because he put on some really, really nice handles. So anyhow, like I said, I am super excited to try to get and cut stuff with this knife. So let's go ahead and grab a few things and let's get cutting. Alright guys, so as always, we're going to start with a paper test, and we're going to do a tomato test, carrot test, and then today we're going to try to do one of those, I forgot what it's called, where they try to cut the cucumbers into really thin, like paper-like strip. You guys can tell me what it's called below. I'm blanking out on it, but anyhow, let's go ahead and start with the paper test. Freestanding paper test. Let's see how it performs. And I gotta tell you, this knife is very sharp. When I felt the edge of it, I mean, it is extremely sharp. And I kind of understand why some of you guys have always told me, hey, you need to start getting into Japanese knives, because once you get into Japanese knives, you're just not going to turn back. And I'm kind of seeing it now. Holy smokes. I mean, like butter. Look at that. Push test. Look at that. Wow. I mean, it is very sharp. Man, that grind is nice. It is so nice. I mean, it's like cutting the paper. Feels like there's not even anything there. It is so smooth and nice. Just wow. Oh man, this is fun. Like, this is really fun. And you know, there are a lot of makers in Japan that believes that a high quality knife will improve your enjoyment of cooking. I think I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to see it. Alright, now next is tomato test. And I want to point this out to you guys because other people have pointed this out to me before I purchased the knife in Shirogami number 2 steel. Is that white number 2 is a very, very reactive steel until it develops a patina. So whenever you're cutting and using a knife in white number 2, or if you decide to go with one, just make sure the knife gets rinsed off, wiped off, dried off properly, so that way, you know, you don't ruin your knife, okay? Alright, let's go ahead and do this tomato test. No issue whatsoever. Wow. I'm barely putting any pressure on the knife, and I'm just letting the edge do the work. And it is just gliding right through this tomato. Holy smokes. I mean, look how thin that tomato slice is. Wow. Okay, anyhow. Now, I don't think I was able to touch on this, but it is the Rockwell hardness of this knife. I am not sure of the Rockwell hardness of this knife. I didn't ask Taylor what the HRC is, but judging from the stiffness of this knife, it is going to be at least 60 Rockwell hardness. So there you have it. Now let's move on to the carrot test. Man, that went right through it. Holy smokes. I mean, it is cutting through this carrot like it's not even there. Just very little effort, and the knife just goes right through it. Wow. Man, that's nice. That's really, really enjoyable to use. Oh, wow. Wow. That is really, really nice to use. Holy smoke. Alright, next, let's go ahead and try. Trying not to jinx myself, but I've not done this before, so, so please bear with me. Okay, so anyway, I just really wanted to try to see whether or not this knife will be able to do that, because a lot of knives that are not sharp enough, bleh, a lot of knives that are not sharp enough or not thin enough are not able to do this. Like, it would just get stuck, and you wouldn't be able to get kind of like this paper roll style of cut. And this is actually my first time doing it, so if you guys have any tips on how to do it properly, or if you guys see anything that I'm doing wrong, feel free to lend some advice down in the comments below. Anyhow, this wraps up the cut test, and let's go ahead and move on to the conclusion. Alright, as you guys can see, this knife performed flawlessly. I mean, it is such a freaking joy to use this knife. And now I understand why a lot of you guys said in the comments saying, hey, you should really try out artisan made or handmade Japanese knives, because once you go handmade Japanese, it is really, really difficult for you to find and enjoy other knives. Yeah, now, I mean, this is my first time using a truly handmade Japanese knife, and man, that is such a fun cutting experience. It is super fun, and you guys, I mean, you guys can probably see that I'm really excited. I am super excited. I'm kind of giddy over it. So yeah, this was really fun to cut with. This was just blew my mind on the performance of this knife. I am 100% overlooking the fact that it is not as tall as I usually like it, and I will probably hit up 𝐸𝗟 and just see whether or not they can make me a Nakiri that's just a little bit taller. That's how much I'm liking this knife so far. And yeah, anyway, this wraps up the video for the week. I'm going to be buying some stuff to keep cutting with this because it was so fun to cut with. And if you guys enjoyed this video, if you guys liked the video, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It will mean the world to me. It'll help me support all of this madness. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.